presentations on research before. We have looked at the importance of research to business, how it helps when businesses want to pivot or to, you know, start offering new products or new services. And, you know, we have seen where primary and secondary research is important to business. This morning, we're going to be looking at some of the tools that we can use to engage when we are going to be making smarter decisions for our businesses and so on. So I'm going to be introducing our speaker in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to thank you firstly for joining us this morning. I know that, you know, there are many other places that you could be, but you are with us and we are grateful for your presence. Now, we have been doing the JBDC Virtual Bizone webinar series for about 2.5 months, and we've looked at several topics. I want to remind you that if you've missed any of our sessions, they are all available on our YouTube channel at JBDC Jamaica, and you can subscribe and watch them at any time. Once you subscribe, you will be notified once something new is uploaded, so you can go ahead and watch it at any time. If you know anybody that wanted to see a session, but for whatever reason they missed the session, of course, you can also share it with them. You can also follow us on social media. What we have done is to capture little pieces of each of the sessions and put them together very creatively and very nicely. So if you don't have the time to watch the session, you can also capture little pieces of information on our social media platform. Now to this morning's session, our presenter is Ms. Chavanie Bright, and she is the Chief Insights Officer at Blue Dot Insights. Chavanie is a versatile leader delivering results and business growth across various industries. She possesses a wide range of core skills and all-around business exposure that allows her to develop integrated business solutions. She holds a Master of Science with major in business analytics from the University of Warwick Business School, where she graduated at the top of her class. She has worked with companies in the Caribbean, Latin America, Southern Africa, and the United Kingdom, gaining international exposure, broadening her outlook, and strengthening her interpersonal skills. She's also an avid traveler who has visited 27 countries across 4 continents. Oh my gosh. The balance of technical competencies and practical experience lends to Chavanie's ability to understand clients' pain points and the pressures of corporate environments. She's able to reconcile business priorities against resources to deliver the optimal balance for achieving business goals. We are pleased to present Mrs. Bright to you this morning. Just want to say that if you have questions during the presentation, you can go ahead and type them in the chat. We will facilitate the question and answer post-presentation, but I'm anticipating a very good presentation this morning. So it's over to you, Chavanie.
Thank you so much. And welcome everyone. As we've reiterated, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. We know with all that is happening, including Sahara dust, a lot of things are happening and you could have been spending your time elsewhere doing, you know, other things. And we want to thank you for sharing this moment with us and allowing us to share with you some information that hopefully you'll find useful and that you can use to push your business forward and to support you in making better business decisions. So my goal for this session is really to have an interactive session with you guys. My focus will be to go through a quick presentation where I'll talk about a number of different issues. And at the end, we will take some questions and we will have a wrap session and some feedback. Primarily, I would like every person, every business leader, every entrepreneur on this session to leave with a clearer understanding as to what are some of the tools that are available to them, the ones that are for cost, of course, but as well as some of the ones that are free and open source that they can access, but as well as answer some of the key questions that we get from the MSME segment as it relates to research, and what are some of the challenges and the barriers to the research space, and why we don't have more MSMEs executing research and benefiting from research services and research tools. So that is my primary goal for this session, and I hope that we'll be able to go through the presentation and we can answer any questions you may have and clarify anything that is unclear. So I am going to open and share my screen and we kick off. Right. I trust everyone is able to see my screen. Okay, great. So a few years ago, I was actually in the shoes of many of you. I was managing director at a new company that was started in Jamaica. We were actually in the tobacco space, which is a very dynamic, complex, challenging space to work in. I just returned from the UK for my studies, and I was doing a pilot test for a new tobacco brand in the Jamaican market. Now, as someone that has always worked in the research arena, and I've benefited from an academic background in research, that was one of the key tools that I expected to rely on in making decisions for my business. Now, a key goal that we had for this business was to establish a factory in Jamaica. And we had estimated a timeline that we'll be able to do so. But as well, we had identified some key parameters that once we hit those milestones, we would have been able to say comfortably make the investment to open a local cigarette making factory in Jamaica. Now, of course, those were the initial plans. We would have needed to track our performance, track our market share, track all the movements in the market over a period of time.
I'm sorry, Chavanie, but someone is saying that they're not able to see the screen. Can I just see by a show of hands all the persons who are able to see a screen? Just go to the middle of your screen, click on participants, and you'll be able to raise your hand. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Valissa. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Dorian, Camille, Kadeem. Abigail, can you check if your video is on? Because if your video is not on, you might not be able to see. That might be your challenge. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Simone. Abigail, are you able to see now? Can you just raise your hand to let me know? All right, continue, Chavanie, and if anything, I will get to her on the back end.
Okay, great, not a problem. Right, so important to that process of deciding whether or not to invest in a factory was understanding the market dynamics, understanding what was happening with our share, understanding who were the players in the market, and if it was viable to actually invest in setting up a factory. I'm not sure if any of our members here operate factories, but it's quite an extensive amount of investment that is necessary to commission a factory, to keep it running, the real estate that is involved, the infrastructure, the initial investment. So in order to make an informed and smart decision, it was important for us to have research data to guide that process. Now, then I encountered my next challenge, the cost of research. We reached out to a number of agencies, and to do the tracking sessions that we would require on we wanted a fortnightly basis or a monthly basis, it would have cost us about a quarter of the cost of our machinery over a 3-month period. Right. So essentially we were faced with a huge roadblock as it related to getting access to affordable research and getting access to the data that we needed to make our decisions. So we got creative and we decided to take an alternative approach. So what we did, we reached out to a number of youths from the neighboring community to our office, and we commissioned them to collect filters from the trade. Now, I'm not encouraging anyone to start smoking, but let me tell you a little bit about the cigarette. There is a part of the cigarette at the top that goes into your mouth that is called the filter, and that part of the cigarette has the brand name, right? And usually the company that manufactures the product. So you're able to have key markers so you know which brand it belongs to. So it's almost like a label. So we had these teams of guys going out. We organized for their transportation. We organized for security to support them. There were a team of 7 in total, including the driver and the security support. And they would go out in late at night, right, to the hotspots around Kingston, because we sort of geofence Kingston as a proxy for, our consumption patterns. And we had those guys collect all the filters from our brands, competitor brands, illegal brands, and they would collate these tobacco filters and tally them up by brand and by variant, and they would share this data with us. Now, in doing that exercise, we were able to understand, one, all the players that were in the market within the Kingston area. 2, the prevalence of our brand in relation to other brands that were in the market. And 3, the evolution and growth of illegal brands. Because that data in particular, we would not have been able to capture it from any official sources, because these are brands that come into the country legally. So there would not be an official source to be able to tap into to get this information from. So in modifying our approach and in executing our own research, we were able to, every 2 weeks, track the progression of our brand, to see our brand growth, to see how our footprint was increasing in the market and decreasing for some cycles. We were able to see which were the key players. We were able to understand what was happening in the illegal space and what people were consuming, and where we found more of what types of filters and brands. And we essentially had a tracking tool that was very useful in helping us to determine and to make the decisions that we needed to make. Ultimately, because of all the fragility in the market, because of all of the complexity of the illegal segment that really had no regulation, there was no management of it, we decided it was not prudent to go ahead and establish a factory in Jamaica at this time. But that exercise for me is a key example of how business leaders and entrepreneurs can somewhat take matters into their own hands to support the data process. Now, this may not work for all brands, and also it gives you a proxy. It doesn't tell us, how we are performing nationally. It doesn't tell you how you're performing within certain key socioeconomic segments, but it does give you somewhat of an indication, a rough marker as to where you are in the market. So, when I joined Blue Dot a few years later, one of my key objectives was to look at ways that we could support the MSME segment, because I understood that research was primarily accessible to large companies, but a lot of the small companies who would benefit from it significantly were not able to, 1, afford research, 2, access open source free data sources, and 3, be able to equipped to sort of support the research process. And by that, I mean having internal data that could support the process, knowing who their customers were, understanding the segment that they operated in. So there were a lot of blinders in the market that really inhibited small businesses from being able to leverage data and to be able to get good insights to support their businesses. So that is a personal mandate for me, and something that, moving into the research industry, something that I personally want to tackle and to work on. So we're going to talk a little bit today about some of the dynamics and why things are the way they are, and how we can work regardless of these limitations to be able to get the insights that we need to make the decisions that we need to make for our business, to save us from making catastrophic mistakes, and to also to support our growth and expansion. Okay. So you would have, well, most of you, I hope, would have seen the sessions that looked at the importance of data, the value of research, and why it is important to business. So I won't, go into that again. I believe that we all understand that when you have a greater level of understanding and information about a topic or subject, you're able to make informed decisions. And informed decisions tend to be well supported, smarter, and can lead to better results. Right, so we have in Jamaica, and it is the plague of a lot of developing countries, the issue of information gaps, right? And as an entity, Blue Dot, this is something that we lobby for all the time, to support the openness of data and of information to the public, so people can have access, so people can understand different nuances and different things and what is happening. But we face some unique challenges, and it will take a lot of time and effort and systems and processes and legislation potentially to get us to where we'd like to go. To give you an example, my sister resides in Canada, and she was doing a project at the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak. And as we all recall, there was a huge shortage of hand sanitizers. And within a day, she was able to do an exercise to identify the total volume of hand sanitizers that were produced in Canada, the total volume imported into Canada, who were the largest companies that were participating in the hand sanitizer space, all that it took to manufacture hand sanitizer in terms of raw materials and ingredients, all of the sort of regulations and requirements that you need to qualify as a hand sanitizer manufacturer, or the approvals that you would require. And she was able to collate this information in a matter of hours. If we were to try to replicate that same exercise here in Jamaica, it would be quite challenging, if not impossible, because we face a challenge of, one, data scarcity. There is not a lot of data that is stored in an organized way. There's just no data, it's just missing. Like, nobody had collected it before, the incident or the record was created, but nobody took the time to harvest it and to store it properly and to keep it so we could access it at a later date. So data scarcity is a huge problem that we face here in Jamaica. Unstructured data is another issue. So sometimes where it is stored, it is not in a format that you can readily retrieve and manipulate and evaluate over time. So we once had a client that was in the textile industry, and she had wanted to expand into importing fabrics and selling fabrics to other small seamstresses and designers. And one of the key things that she wanted to understand was, what was the size of the textile space? Like, who were the key players? Who were importing textile? How much textile was imported into Jamaica on an annual basis? Now, how this data was stored in terms of looking at the customs data, it was not disaggregated. So textiles formed a part of another broader category, and getting that data broken down by the specific elements of the category was just not possible. So first data source was a no-no. The second approach was to talk to some of the major players. We have the LPSR, we have the Pings, we have Pablos. Those guys, of course, are not going to voluntarily tell you, oh, I import X amount of fabric per year. So we had some significant challenges understanding the structure and the composition of the space. And we got to the point where we had to do some complex assessment, and we proposed some mathematical approaches to do some calculations based on the number of fabrics that were sold. And it was very difficult trying to get to an accurate number as to what the textile space looks like in Jamaica. And we assume that this problem is across several industries, across most industries, potentially, in terms of identifying what the size of the industry is, what the value of the industry is. Is it feasible to even approach that industry as a form of business expansion, which is very important to MSMEs. The other challenge is the data sharing protocols. Even data from your ministries and from your government entities, there's often no clear protocol as to how you go about accessing that data. So you write a few emails, you make a few phone calls, you write some more emails, you make some more phone calls, and it could essentially be a 3-month process trying to get a piece of data from any of these entities. And that, of course, creates not only frustration, but usually at the end, when you get the output, it's not exactly what you're looking for. It's not in a structured format. It's in paper documents. You have to go through and try to get it to a format that you can actually work with it. So imagine if we had all the tools and flexibilities that a lot of developing countries had, we'd be able to just do a quick Google search, utilize tools like Euromonitor and those other tools that measure commerce and commercial activity. And if you want to start a business next week, you could do your business case in one day, because you'll be able to pull down information about the industry, information about the players, information about even some of the gaps and opportunities that you could leverage, right? There's also the challenge of cost. There are some entities that do sell their data, quite expensive. And where there isn't cost in financial cost, there's also cost in time and cost in effort that it takes to actually access this data. There's a lot of hoarding in our market. Companies that have information tend to hold on to it and not want to share because, of course, we know data is valuable. But there are pieces of the data that benefit the industry and that benefit all the parts of it that improve it for everyone, that really should be shared. I did some work with some strawberry growers in the Blue Mountain area. And one of the key things that they did was that they communicated regularly and shared their data and their findings and shared information on new diseases that they were coming across, new types of treatments for some of these diseases, what they were doing as the seasons changed and the conditions were different. And you found that more people came into the industry, but the demand also increased. So effectively, the industry itself benefited from that sharing and that collaboration that was happening between the farmers. So there's definitely benefit in sharing data and not hoarding it. There's also a lack of standardization in terms of how data is collected. So you will have some entities have a little bit of data, another entity has another bit of data, but it's not collected in the same way. Say, for instance, we are talking about user data. Some entities will collect by TRN and classify by TRN. Other entities will do so by passport number. So in trying to match the persons to get a complete profile may not be feasible, right? And that's just an example. We actually do not do any work that requires us mining TRN information. We keep a lot of our participants in our studies anonymous. We do not collect personal information like that. That was just an example. And there's also lack of adequate infrastructure. We are a developing country, and we have not, in most of our ministries, organized a process and put resources behind the process to actually manage the flow and storage and maintenance of data. And that's challenges that we face as a developing country, and that's something that as a data agency we continue to advocate for, we continue to encourage the government and other important entities in the data space to try to work on, so we can at least have some end goal, so that our children who are entrepreneurs don't face the same challenge that we faced when we were trying to access data. Right, I hope that wasn't too boring. It's something that I'm very passionate about, so I could go on for days. Right, so the other challenge that a lot of small businesses face is the cost of data. And that cost comes from two main elements. One is a process, and two is the expertise. So the process to generate insights is can be actually very tedious. There's a lot of moving parts that are involved. Say we commission a study, we want to talk to 1,000 Jamaicans island-wide, and we want to get their feedback on a particular brand of delivery service, for example. That often means we create an instrument that we'll be using to collect that data. This instrument needs to be appropriate for cause and fit for purpose for what we need it to do. We need to train interviewers to go out and administer this instrument in the way it was designed. These interviewers are professionals in their own right, because this is what they do on a regular basis. I mean, I know I, for one, probably couldn't do what they do. I have done it, but I didn't enjoy it very much. You essentially had to go to people, approach them, and get them to participate in a study that was of no benefit to them at all. So that in itself is quite a tedious process, and it requires a certain skill set to be able to execute it properly. So then after we've collected all that information, we need to then store it, put it all together so we can access it and manipulate it. After we've done that, then we need to go through and look for patterns and trends and let the data speak to us. So we need to massage it and look at it in different ways and visualize it before we can actually extract the meaningful insights. And then we need to also look at that within the scope of your specific objectives and goals, within the scope of the industry that you are participating in, and in the context of the unique problems that you're having. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to doing, comes to the insights process, and there are a lot of people involved. And these people and these processes and these parts, of course, they take time and they take money to fund. The other aspect of it is the expertise. Research is, or incorporates, a lot of science. So it's not made up. We don't make it up as we go along. There's actual science and techniques that are behind a lot of what we do. And the science need to be managed and supported by scientists. So we have persons who have certain, different expertise in the team that support the extraction of the insights, that are able to look at the data with trained eyes to be able to know what to look for, what tests to apply, what sort of analytical tools to use to pull out a certain result, and also to have the expertise to convert some of those findings into actual insights by being able to combine knowledge of the local market, knowledge of the international market, knowledge of the science, knowledge of the business, to be able to give you meaningful support and meaningful advice and meaningful recommendations to employ in your business. So when you combine the complexity of the process, the high level of expertise that is required to actually effect the science, it can be quite expensive to execute research. We have a team of data collectors or interviewers. They are the core of our organization. We try to support them as best as possible. We ensure that they're taken care of, that when they go out and do work on our behalf, that they are able to travel back and forth safely, that they're refreshed, and that they have all the tools that they need to be able to carry out the work. Because the process starts there. If there's any lack of integrity at that process, if there's lack of motivation, the client suffers, and we don't want our clients to suffer. So we ensure that we take care of that level of our team, and we really value that level of our team as well. So that's where a lot of the costs come from. People need to get paid, data needs to be bought at times, travel needs to be done. And of course, if we have a team of experts, which we do here at Blue Dot especially, we need to compensate our team appropriately so that, we keep getting the good work that we get from them, and that the insights are at the standard and level that is going to change your business and change the country and change your life. So that's why research tends to be as expensive as it is. The next thing we're going to look at is we are going to jump into the tools. This is probably covered in some of the previous sessions that you did, because I understand that persons would have covered qualitative and quantitative research tools. So here is actually a combination of qualitative and quantitative, even though it says qualitative in the middle, because we've just added surveys there. So we all know about surveys, we know about case studies, we know about record keeping, which a lot of companies have as a free tool, a free approach to collecting data and to understanding their business. We have process observation, we have ethnographic research, which is where the subject of the research is observed in their natural environment. So we see the patterns, we see how they shop, we see how they interact with the products, we see how they go about maneuvering our websites. All of that it's ethnographic work. There's focus groups where we talk to people in group settings and we share ideas and we evaluate different things or topics or products. And then of course we have one-on-one interviews. There are areas to the right that are free. These are things that small businesses can leverage today to be able to better understand their customers, better understand their industry, better understand their internal systems. Because now, with the changes with COVID, it's important that we also understand inward, that we understand what is happening inside of our organizations to be able to tweak our machinery and to tweak our systems and to tweak our processes so that we can be more competitive in the long run. So observation is one of them, and observation is very key because it's something that you can do by walking on your storefront, seeing how your customers are interacting with your brands. You can observe what people are saying on, for example, on social media. You can look at the comments. You can look at how people are interacting with your products. There's also case studies that look at new topics and emerging topics. For instance, there's a lot of material now that is out on e-commerce, and e-commerce is one of those buzzing areas that came up a lot in the COVID-19 period, where we saw a lot of businesses moving towards online shopping and delivery, online purchases, and moving their shops and storefronts online. So there are a lot of case studies available, both mainly internationally, but some local stuff as well, that talk about, how to leverage e-commerce, how to get set up, how to incorporate it into your business. And these are things that are available with a quick Google search, that are available to small businesses as well, without having to do or to undertake any major research. Record keeping, as I mentioned earlier, is also a very powerful tool in order to understand your clients, in order to understand your customer base, to understand the patterns, the preferences, the likes, the dislikes, the sales trends. And this is an area that even large entities fail at. You are able to get some very robust insights if you have the combination of internal good record keeping and external data. When you combine those two, you are able to unlock a new level when it comes to insights, because you're understanding what's happening on the inside, but also complementing and supplementing that with what's happening on the outside in terms of what's happening with your client base and customers. So we'll be able to do things like map your sales trend over time, and then look at what seasons or what time periods your users or your customers prefer to shop or prefer to buy, or when they're buying your products. So you can identify, when are your low sales periods, and be able to get some insights on what could be contributing to that. So you're able to put measures in place to mitigate against those push factors to ensure that you are able to increase your sales and remove downtime and remove some of those troughs from your sales performance. So we always encourage all businesses, especially small entities, to keep good records of your sales and your transactions. If you can store and manage customer data, that is also very important, because it also helps to make the research process more affordable. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Interviews are also something that you can leverage. Interviews with industry experts, persons who operate businesses that are somewhat larger than yours, or businesses that you benchmark. Call them up, schedule some time, have a lunch, have a coffee, and talk to them about some of their best practices and some of their challenges and how they've been able to overcome them. You will be surprised how much people are willing to share and to support, and all you really need to do is ask. And you can also interview your customers and talk to them, ask them about the service that you're providing. If you have, say, a restaurant or you're in food service, it's important just to reach out to your people and find out, what are some of the areas that you're probably not hitting, and what are some of the things that you're doing very well. What are their ideas in terms of things that you could be doing differently, or you could incorporate, or you could change and modify. And from that, you could identify key ways that could revolutionize your business. Okay. I would have spoken earlier about collecting customer data. This is just a quick wheel about some of the things that you can measure. Who's purchasing your product? That's very important, because that tells you, that gives you so much insight in terms of how to position them, how to place them. You understand who makes that purchasing decision. So when that person is in store, you know how to approach them and how to position your products to further attract those purchasers. Who is using your product? So the end user. How can you make your product more convenient, more appealing, more attractive, more user-friendly to that end user? Also, who is influencing that purchasing decision? That is key in terms of understanding if, it's a child in the family that is pushing the parent to, buy this particular item, or to get this particular toy, or whatever it is. You're now able to factor that information into your product design and your product layout, and how you, position your entire offer. What are your users' opinions on your products? That is now where you have opportunity for growth, an opportunity to innovate your offerings, and to really reach to those key needs of your customers and ensure that your market share is not taken by somebody else that comes in that offers what you are not offering. What is your product bought over others? So what are the substitutions? So persons choose your product over what other products? All right, that's also very important to know who your competitors are in the market, and what your competitive advantage is over other products. All right, how do your sales fluctuate? So sales data, as we mentioned before, very, very, very essential. What are your peak periods, and how much people are spending is also very important in helping you to price your product, ensure you're maintaining, or you're playing in the appropriate pricing segment, and that your complete product offering is well balanced, and you are appealing to the people that you're trying to reach, that you're trying to target, and that you remain affordable and accessible to that segment that you're trying to reach. Activate social media. It's free, first of all, and people give their feedback and their advice and even recommendations for free on social media. So we recommend to our clients, especially if you're in the SME space, take some time, go through some of the comments on your page, see what people are saying about your brand, see what people are saying about your products, what they're saying about competitor brands and competitor products. And from that, you can already start seeing patterns and having ideas in terms of, what is happening in the segment and where there are unique dissatisfactions. Because in dissatisfaction lies an opportunity for a competitor brand or competitor product to steal your share and to ruin your business. So it is important as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a CMO, to understand what it is that people like about your product, but also what they don't like about your product. What are some of your blind sides? And social media is very useful for that, because people are super vocal on social media. And here, of course, you can track reviews and feedback. You can track your brand engagement. You can run polls even, this or that, see what people prefer, understand what sort of products or content they'd like to see more of. It helps you to tailor your offering even more, get very specific. And you can also talk back. You can reach out to them, ask them more questions, see how they engage with different types of content, to see what interests them and what piques their interest in general. So you can incorporate that in your overall marketing strategy. The other thing is observe, which we mentioned before. If you have the benefit of having a storefront operation where you have foot traffic, where you're able to actually engage with your customers every day when they come in, this is very, very important for you to be able to observe. Observe the time that they spend looking at certain products, looking at certain display cases, looking at certain arrangements within your storefront. Look at how they browse, which aisles do they visit, which products and which areas do they stop, and use that information to organize your layout. So you ensure that people pass particular products on their browsing route, maybe products that you really want to catch their eyes, or products that you want to increase the movement of. So, you know, you have, say, summer is probably canceled this year, but say you have a clothing store and you have bathing suits and bikinis, and the sales are a little bit slow, but persons are looking for sort of summer dresses and also sandals. You may want to organize your shelving so that your summer dresses are here, your bathing suits are in the middle, and your sandals are further down. So en route to look at the sandals, after looking at the the summer dresses, they are forced to interact with the bathing suits, if you understand what I mean. So what you do is you organize your store space and your storefront in order to capture the attention and to pull attention to certain key items that you want your clientele to be focused on. So those are some of the key things that you can do when you observe and when you monitor the movement of your shoppers in your space. And another key factor is facial expression. We're Jamaicans, we're very expressive people. You can tell what we're thinking by the expressions on our faces without us having to say them, to say how we feel. And especially if you're in, you know, food service, if you're in any service industry, it's important to monitor, to just get a feel and a sense of, you know, what those expressions are. Are we seeing sentiments of delight and satisfaction and happiness and just people looking very sated and pleased? Are we seeing a lot of brows knitting up? Are we seeing a lot of doubt and dissatisfaction and disgust even? And then you want to be able to now probe further to see, you know, what is really happening here? Because again, consumers have choice. And the moment that you're no longer satisfying what they're looking for, at the moment you're no longer meeting their needs, the moment you are no longer fulfilling your part of the bargain, they will find other sources to satisfy those needs. Okay, so those are easy things that you can do on your own for free to get key insights for your business. Now, I of course couldn't leave without talking about some of the stuff that we do at Blue Dot. Of course, we offer the full range of traditional research tools. We support our clients with desk research. We support with internal data manipulation. So if you have transaction data, client data, and you want to organize that data in a way that you can mine it and you want to be able to visualize it and pull insights from it, we can also support you with that process. We also do focus group surveys, ethnographic studies, the whole works, right? Now, onto some more interesting tools that help us to be able to serve the segment and to be more efficient at what we do. One of the primary ones is our Blue Dot Communal platform. Now, we not only encourage everyone to sign up for that platform, but we also encourage people to leverage the platform. We have on Blue Dot Communal 10,000 pre-profile Jamaicans who have signed up to give their opinions and ideas and thoughts and feelings about different topics, different products, different ideas. And this platform of persons are readily accessible, meaning if you pose a question right now in the group, I could go over to Comuna, pose that same question to my Comuna platform, and within a matter of minutes, I would have responses. So that takes away the need to be going out into the field. It manages some of the costs for the field work and allows us to be able to be more efficient time-wise and also cost-wise. So it also cuts back on some of the cost. Now, all our participants are compensated for their participation in our studies. So there is still cost involved. However, depending on the length of the instrument, the complexity of the issue that we're exploring, we are still able to carry out research significantly cheaper than our competitors because of the benefit of this platform. So we encourage all of you to sign up and be a part of it and share your opinions, share your ideas, because this is a way to really effect change and to revolutionize the way we collect data and the way we interact with respondents and the way we carry out research. Another interesting thing that we do is that we also offer GIS services, which is Geographic Information Systems. So that tells you the where. Now, many times companies want to know things like, where do I put a billboard? Where do I set up my store? Where do I, if I want to do a promotion, where should I target my promotion? And this is what GIS supports you with. It supports you with the where, by helping you to understand what are all the elements in a specific geographic area that you can leverage to be able to make better decisions. So you may see, 3 offers come up for potential locations for your storefront, and you want to be able to decide, okay, which location will have the highest level of foot traffic, which location is closest to other established businesses so that you can benefit from the spillover traffic, which location has the best access to other traffic routes and access to easy access areas, less traffic, so people are willing to go into that area. And we'll be able to do an assessment and advise you as to, taking into consideration all of those factors, where your business is likely to see the greatest success based on location, right? Because location is very, very, very important. There are places that I enjoy, but I don't go there because it's so much of a hassle to actually get there. Also, if you are one of the businesses who would have leveraged e-commerce and you have been working with your delivery partners, or you have an in-house delivery system, GIS will help you to map out your delivery routes, will help you to understand how to optimize how your riders and drivers get from point A to point B in delivering to customers. You can actually map all of your customer addresses on a map of, say, Kingston, St. Catherine, or Jamaica even, and be able to see the clusters of clients that you have, and in fact do things like preferred pricing. So if you have clients within, say, the Kingston 8 cluster, and you have a solid cluster of clients there, and it's cheaper to reach them because they are all organized in a nice route, right? So your driver can go from different points and he has enough stops to make it meaningful to complete a full rotation. Then you can actually reduce the price for delivery in that area and appeal to more people to do delivery in that area, and grow your client base, and of course achieve greater efficiency in your delivery process. So that's just an idea, just as one idea of one of the many things that you can do with GIS data. So like I mentioned, GIS tells you the where. The other thing that we do at Blue Dot that is unique to our agency is neuroscience. Now, neuroscience is, how do I put this? Is now sort of the brain telling you what is happening inside the person's mind. Okay, so we have several neuroscience tools that measure things like response rates, measure your eye tracking, so what you're focusing on, what you're gazing on, that gives us direct information as to what is happening at the brain level, where decisions are actually made. So we go into the sort of the subconscious decision-making process, and we identify what the inherent preferences are. Now, oftentimes we gravitate towards certain brands, we gravitate towards certain colors, certain textures, and we struggle. If someone were to ask you, why did you pick that, I don't know, that snack, for example, and you say, oh, I just like, cheese crunchies. And you think it's because you just, you like it, and you can't really put it into words why you like it. Actually, in most instances, something would have happened many, many years ago, probably when you were in preschool. I don't know, a girl that you liked gave you, or a boy that you liked gave you some of their cheese crunches, and you know, it was the first time you were trying it, and it has left that psychological imprint on your brain, and you associate cheese crunches with a warm and fuzzy feeling, and that feeling of, meeting someone that's exciting, and meeting, spending time with someone that you cared about, or that was your little crush. And that would have left an implant on your brain that even as an adult, when you interact with the product, it still has that psychological connection with the brand and with the product itself, that you have developed a preference for it without even connecting it to that previous experience, if you understand what I mean. And these psychological imprints can happen with big events, but also with small, subtle things that we don't even record in our day-to-day activities. And that's where neuroscience comes in, because neuroscience effectively tells you what the brain wants, right? And it does so by measuring certain body responses, such as temperature, sweat, eye movement, gaze and focus, reaction time. And we're able to use those variables to measure effectively what is appealing to a particular subject, me being a customer or a client or a consumer of your brand. We also track we also do facial coding, so we can look at how your facial muscles are moving and how they're structured, so we can tell if, when you look at something, your initial response is the response of, wow, this is really good and I like it, or if it's the response of, I'm not enjoying this at all. If you've ever done a taste test, or if you ever cooked anything at home and asked, say, your colleagues or your friends to try it, there are persons who will be honest and say, I don't really like this very much. But also there are persons who would not want to hurt your feelings and would tell you, oh, this is good, man, it tastes good. It tastes like how my grandmother used to make it. When that's not really the case, what neuroscience does, it cuts out all of that programming, it cuts out all of that pretense, and it measures the micro expressions in your face. And that initial bite that you take and that response on your face, it registers that, and it's able to code that and determine where your sentiment lies. So you cut through all that noise, you cut through all that, what people say verbally, and you're able to get to the truth. We used this technology last year to test a product for a client. And when we looked at the self-reported responses, it would have almost suggested that we could launch the product. Persons were not very, very excited, but they were like, we like it. We don't like it very much, but we like it. We could definitely see ourselves purchasing it. But when we looked at the neuroscience findings, primarily, people did not like it very much. They didn't like it at all, really. So when it's important to understand that, each research technique has its downsides, has its limitations. Neuroscience is one that really cuts past all of those, politeness and us wanting to not, sound bad and look bad, and us wanting to sort of fit in and to not stand out. It cuts through all of that and tells you what is happening at the brain level, right? So this is one of our most, I would say, exciting tools that we have. However, depending on the problem that you're having or the objectives that you're trying to solve, we will select the appropriate tool, because not in all cases each of these cool tools are applicable. And that is where, again, the expertise comes in. The expertise that we offer is being able to look at your unique situation, being able to look at your unique business issue and be able to prescribe which approach is best to be able to tackle it, which approach is ideal to be able to get down to the root of what is impacting your business, and be able to do our investigation and make recommendations that are applicable and appropriate to solving those problems and those issues. Right. So now we talk about the money part. Whenever we show very fancy things to our clients, they get very excited. And then we talk about the money part, and then it's like, okay. Um, so it's important that we talk about how we can access some of these things on a budget. Like I mentioned, we have a suite of offerings at Blue Dot. I mean, it would take me a separate, probably 2 separate webinars to talk about all the things that we can do in terms of not just the tools that we can execute, but the different types of insights and the different types of decisions that you can make from the different techniques that we can execute. However, I want to just give you some tips here on how you can access research cheaper. What are some of the things that you can do to be able to reduce the cost of your research budget and be able to get more out of what you're doing and be able to I don't know, help the process, really just help the process. So, you know, help us so we can help you. And a key thing is having fewer and more specific objectives. Now, obviously, if you approach us and you want to know about all of your customers, you want to know about the other 10 major competitors in your industry, and you want to know about all their customers, you want to know about what they're doing, all of their launches, all of their products and services, you want a profile of their client base as well. You want a competitor assessment of all of them, highlighting all of their USPs, all of their route to market, all of their business models, and all of that. It's gonna be expensive. Okay, so if you're able to narrow down your objectives to which ones are most important, which ones are mission critical to your business right now, and we can target those specific objectives, it will significantly reduce your cost, significantly. So that is something to do as an internal exercise first within your business, talking to your other executives or your team members, or just even ideating, because very often as entrepreneurs, we know where the problems lie. We just are not sure how to tackle them. And sometimes there are multiple problems, and we have a challenge in prioritizing which one we need to tackle first. So that piece of work is very important, and we provide support with that. So once you engage us, we start working with you to say, okay, you suspect all of these things may be problematic, but which ones? And we work through with you to identify which issues could actually be interconnected. So once we've solved this one, it will have a spin-off effect on solving another one. It will also be beneficial if you support with any existing data that you may have. I would have mentioned the example of the entrepreneur in the textiles industry who wanted to do some work to understand the scope of the market. She was actually able to pull some of her import data, as well as some data that she had gotten through another source that was actually very instrumental in allowing us to be able to look at the exercise in a different way and to have another approach to get her the results that she needed. The other thing is, be clear about who your target group is. Sometimes we, as business people, we have an idea the types of customers that we'd like to be buying our brands, but they're different from the actual customers that we have buying our brands. It's important for you to understand who that target is, and we will of course help support you with that. But that comes back as well to collecting good internal data and building relationships with your customers and with your client base, so you know who they are. So when we're looking to grow your business and to expand, we can find more of these people, and we know whose opinions carry the most weight for your business. The other area is being open to non-traditional approaches. Sometimes our clients come to us and they say, oh, I want this thing. And we say, okay, yeah, that thing is cool, but that thing is going to cost you this amount. And they go, oh, okay, but can I get that thing for cheaper? Well, sometimes it's not necessarily feasible to get what you desire for a lower price. However, we can tailor something that will give you the results that you need that will be within the budget that you are expecting. And just to give you an example, we've had clients approach us to look at, for example, new product ideas. Now, it is believed that you can get new product ideas from just asking people, you know, what else do you want? What products would you like to see? What do you think we should be doing? And while that can be useful, very often our customers and our clients, they're preoccupied with their own lives. They're not exactly, you know, thinking about ways, you know, how you could make things differently. Potentially in the moment of a complaint or when they identify an issue, they can say, you know what, this is a barrier for me. If you can remove this barrier, I would appreciate it. You know, if you could show the stuff, show your entire storefront online, so I know what I'm looking for when I go there, that would be helpful. If you tell me all the sizes you have in the shoe by, you know, a little sticker or whatnot, that would help me to not have to, you know, waste time to have the rep go there to try to find it. So when complaints are made, you can definitely get good insights. But ordinarily, just when there are no burning issues and you're looking for innovative ideas to expand your business, just asking your clientele alone is not the only way to solve that problem. You can look at desk research, look at what people are doing in other markets, in other advanced markets, benchmark ideas from, I mean, the world is now open to us. Look at case studies and white paper and other publications that are done on that same topic. So and that of course is much more having to do consumers of that product or brand. So that is an alternative way of using a desk-based research to solve the problem than going directly to primary research. And that will save you a ton of money. That's just one example. Also, utilizing your client base. Recruitment is one of the key costs that we have in the research process. If you want to understand something further about your existing customers, and you can provide a list of those customers, of course, with any personal information removed, all the, you know, if you store like credit card information or addresses and stuff, if you can remove all of those, send us contact information and basic, you know, any sort of basic categories that you have, that you store your data by. That helps us significantly, because then we have a direct line of targets for our different, you know, data collection tools. We could get a list of your customers. We could push a survey to them online. That way we eliminate data collection costs of having to pay our interviewers to go out and collect this data. We eliminate the process of having to recruit, and we eliminate traveling. So you're right away able to save on your research exercise. Another way you could do that, say we're looking at doing focus groups and we want to meet with some of your clients and talk to them and really deep dive into some of the issues and concerns that they're having. A key thing that we do when we do focus groups is that we compensate the participants. So we pay them cash most often to be at the groups and to give us their ideas. Cash could, say, be exchanged for a 25% store credit. So they could get a 25% discount card that is their incentive for coming to the session. And we already know they're shopping at the store. We already know they know your brands. So this is something that is of great value to them, and also for you, because it is encouraging you to get additional sales. You're pulling people back into the store to spend there, and likely they'll pick up other things that they probably didn't even need, right? But it's an opportunity for you to upsell and cross-sell and to leverage the research process, right? To be able to push your growth and drive your business agenda. So these are some tips that you can utilize to be able to access research, but do so on a budget. At Blue Dot, we have worked out some specific packages that we have designed for MSMEs. because we understand some of the unique challenges that you face. We understand that research is not necessarily something that is built into MSME P&Ls. It just does not happen as much. Even marketing is a stretch, let alone research. We understand that. And we have tailor-made some packages specifically for our MSME clients. And at the end of the session, later on, we invite you to, have a chat with one of our reps, and we can talk about how we can tailor something to solve a problem in your business, to help you to understand something more in your business, and to be able to access the types of insights that's going to drive growth, that's going to drive better performance, and that's going to ensure that your business continues to be sustainable in these very challenging and unique times. Thank you. We will take the questions now.
Thank you very much, Chavanie. That was a very intensive presentation. I certainly learned a lot from it. Just looking back at some of the things that you spoke about, some of the tools, a lot of the times, I don't know if it's that the MSMEs are not aware of some of the free tools that they can use. The customer data is like a mine, it's like a gold mine. If you are running a business and you have customers coming in and out of your business every day, one of the greatest things that you can do is design a comprehensive customer data collection sheet and use that information to make decisions as it relates to your business. Social media, it's not just for saying hello to your friends and posting selfies and pretty pictures.
Exactly.
And then the other one that you touched on, observation. And again, a very good tool that can be used when you look at things like buying patterns and buying behaviors. When do people buy? What do they buy? What is the process that they go through before they actually take that money out of their pocket? Because the fact is that buying does not begin when the money comes out of the pocket.
No.
Buying begins in the mind.
Yes.
And then you also touched on the tools that Blue Dot provides, and when you spoke about the neuroscience and so somebody posted in the group, I'm going to tell you what they posted in the chat. Okay. It is a mind reader. It's one of those.
Pretty much, Pauline, it is a mind reader.
It is a mind reader, and the truth is that the way how insights work is that it goes beyond what you are used to. So this is one of the non-traditional approaches, and this is how businesses internationally in particular are able to provide real solutions to the customers that they service. So, it is time for us in the local sphere to take on these tools and begin to use them. So are there any questions from anyone? You can either raise your hand or put the question in the chat. Just a thank you from Amanda, though, in the group chat. It says, thank you for the excellent presentation and content. Suggestions were practical and relevant to businesses at all levels. There's so much power in GIS, and I'm convinced that more local companies will begin to tap into the potential of this tool.
Absolutely. Mapping isn't something that we
can also see where GIS.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Okay. So I'm looking back the other day when the Prime Minister was talking about the persons coming in and they wanted to use, what was it, geographical fencing? That's what they call it. Is it the same thing? Right. So to track the persons coming into the country. So, we're taking time, but we're getting there. We're embracing the technology. So hopefully it's something that will become widespread sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Agreed. And mapping isn't one of the areas that we're traditionally maximized by companies. It was primarily used as a, route to market tool, supporting the design of route mapping and route development sort of thing. Companies like Uber and Lyft and those companies would have been sort of at the cutting edge of, leveraging that sort of data, Google Maps and so on. But now we're seeing where we can use the concepts and apply them to everyday business decision making, because it tells us the where, and where is very important. So it is, as Amanda mentioned, an area that we definitely see companies leveraging and maximizing in the future.
Right. And one of the things I want to encourage the MSMEs to do as well, right now is a good time to be looking at these tools. I mean, in the past 2.5 months, working up to now, because, economies are reopening and businesses are reopening, but it's a good time to take a look at these different tools. Look at what other companies have been doing, because a lot of the businesses locally were unable to pivot to online very quickly when the country got shut down in March. So a lot of businesses ended up either closing, downsizing, or something to that effect. And so there is like they are struggling to get back to the point where they were. So if you take the time to do a little research, here comes that word again, research, to find out what it is that other businesses like yours, because trust me, no matter how small your operation is, no matter what you're doing, and say, oh, nobody else is doing that, you'll be very surprised. Somebody is out there doing it, and they're doing it better than you. Go online, find out what's available, talk to somebody, Google, YouTube, and see what's out there to help you to improve your operation. So, Chavanie, it appears that you were as clear as mud, because there's absolutely no question.
No questions.
No questions at all. So we want to thank you so much, Chavanie, for coming on this morning and for sharing your knowledge and insights with us. We certainly appreciate that you took the time out of your very busy schedule, I'm sure, to come on and to share with us. I want to remind everyone that if you have missed any of our previous sessions, either for the virtual Biz Zone, for In Concert series, for the Entrepreneur's Journey, they are all available on our YouTube channel. You can check them out at any time. We encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you'll be notified when a new recording is uploaded. So thank you again, Chavanie, and
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. And be safe from all the dust that is outside. Please let us be careful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We don't want to have any more issues going into 2020. Everyone be safe.
We want no more issues. All right. Thank you, Chavanie.
Thank you.